everyone. Welcome to this Fluent UI Blazor library presentation for the .NET Conf 2024. Denis and I will take you through what we are doing and working on for the next version of the library. But first, let's do some introductions. My name is Vincent Baaij, Cloud Solution Architect at Microsoft by day and Library Maintainer by night.
Yeah, and hello, and thank you for joining us for this session on Fluent UI and Blazor. I'm Denis Voituron, software engineer at Microsoft and principal maintainer of this open source project also, like Vincent explained just now. So the first thing, it's maybe to explain what we will do on this presentation. It's about the content, about the content of the presentation. The first part will be to explain what is Fluent UI. So Vincent will explain that in a few minutes. Just after that, Vincent will rebuild the default website. So you know the default website on Blazor, the template where you have the counter page and also the weather page. So Vincent will recreate this template using the Fluent UI components. And just after that, at the end, I will explain what will be for the next generation of component. The V5 version of the library will be available in some months. And I will explain also some innovation about architectural features, and we'll explain that in a few minutes also. But maybe for you, Vincent, can you explain what is Fluent UI? Maybe I think that's a good thing to understand the next feature of the presentation also.
Yeah. But first, let's talk a little bit how we do the support for this library. So as you know, Microsoft releases a new version of .NET every year. All even versions are long-term service releases or LTSs as we know them, but they all have a limited lifespan. So with our V3 version, we started supporting .NET 7. That one is already quite long out of support already. And now with the release of .NET 9, .NET 6 is also going out of support. So moving forward, the release 4 that we currently have will work on .NET 8 and higher. But our next release, release version 5, will only work on .NET 9 and higher. So we kind of trail along with the versions of .NET that are being released every year. All right, so let's move on and talk a little bit about Fluent UI Blazor. We have many pieces that kind of built this library. You see them all here on the screen, and I want to go through all of them in a few sentences. .NET Aspire is not really a part of this puzzle, but it's important to mention as this is the most public consumer that we have of the library. If you've seen the .NET Aspire dashboard in action, then these are the components that power that experience, and that is what it's built on. But first, let's talk a little bit about the web components and what they are. So yes, this is valid. You see that here on the screen. That is a valid HTML tag, just as you know, like a div or a span. And that is what you can build with web components.
That's a great advantage to use the component like that, to have the same tags here.
Yeah. It has its own private part of the document object model, and you can do styling with it without it interfering with the rest of the styling of the website, etc. It supports theming, it supports skinning, so going from dark mode to light mode and vice versa is much easier. And because of the technology being used with web components, it's also quite easy to make that apply then to all the components in the site. By using modern technologies like CSS variables, etc. Then as the next part, we have Fast, which is built with a team in Microsoft to make it easier to build web components and make it faster to build those web components. You don't need a framework to use what is being built with Fast, but it certainly will make your life easier if you do that. And it's not like the typical frameworks that you get with React or Angular or Vue. It's not being focused on giving you that whole stack of things that you need to do, but it's just giving you those building blocks. And yeah, like I said, it makes it easier to build web components and build them in a consistent way. And that is what the team set out to do. And they made that technology. And then they said, well, let's build some web components and make those web components give them the Fluent look and feel. So, and the Fluent design system, or Fluent in short, is basically everything that you know from Windows 11 or the Microsoft Office applications. They all look familiar, and they use these 5 key components that are here on the slide. And basically, every new application that is being built by Microsoft follows that same design system. The current newest version is version 2. And our current version of the library still supports only version 1, but with the new version of the web components that are being built, we will also move to version 2 of Fluent. We know, of course, Fluent originated from the Zoom player and the Windows Phone interface, which we all still miss, unfortunately. But that is where it came from, and it's highly recognizable. There's also kind of like a limitation of this library that we are building, because if you want to do that and use that for your blog or your e-commerce site or etc., then maybe this is not the library for you, because it is really all about implementing that Microsoft look and feel, and that is our core principle that we are building on. So if you have then the Fluent UI web components that were built by the FAST team, and you have that Fluent design system, and you throw that all together, then you get like the Fluent UI web components. And then if you have the Fluent UI web components and Blazor on the other side and mix those two together, you get the Fluent UI Blazor component library. And that is what we are talking about today. One small hint about the support. It is a full open source, pure open source project. So don't go to the Microsoft support environment to create issues on it. They won't be recorded there. We have the repo, and once you report an issue there, we will do our best to help you as good as possible and as fast as possible. But it's on a best effort base. If you're worried about the longevity of the library, well, the fact that the .NET team chose it to build the .NET Inspired dashboard with it, I think is a testament of the quality, that the project is ready to be used in prime time.
Yeah. Maybe a demo.
Let's go to see some demos. In the first demo, we won't be doing some live coding here. We have some pre-recorded videos that we'll walk through with you. If you want to do this all from scratch, you can go to this link that is shown on the screen. That is basically what we did last year. So we're not going to rehash all of that, but do it in a little bit more condensed form to have some time to do other things about the next version as well.
And also using the template we created about that. I think that that will be interesting also.
Yes. So what you see here is the NuGet version where the templates are being installed from. And once you have done that, you can just say File New Project in Visual Studio and get basically the whole site as you know and love from all the Blazor demos that you see, but now in the Fluent look and feel. So you have the counter, you have the weather page. It's all using the Fluent components underneath. The menu can be expanded or collapsed. The accent color is being used. So basically all that you would see in the normal Bootstrap template has been replaced. We've completely removed Bootstrap. And I think an important thing to mention here is that the code for this template is 100% based on the code that you get from the standard Blazor template. So it's exactly the same code, but just the presentation of the end result is made Fluent, as we said.
Yeah. And what can we do if we want to add some extra feature? For example, register page or something like that.
Yeah, that's quite easy, because once you say, add a new page here, give it a name, and start building and adding components to that. So, for example, for a register page, we could say, well, use an edit form, like you know and work with already from the standard Blazor components. But in this case, we were using specific Fluent components, like a Fluent button or an input field, like a Fluent text field or a date picker, etc. Now, all these components are documented on our demo and documentation side, so we'll not go into these details too much, but as you can see here on the screen, we have now basically added this page, added some code behind to it, and now we have that page on the result. Of course, we also want to have, like, in the menu an icon for this new entry that we're making in the navigation. We implemented the complete Fluent UI system icon set, which is about 12K icons in all kinds of sizes. We just copied the name and make sure that we put that in a new Fluent nav link that we put in the menu here. And once that is saved, you see that string being highlighted there, and we run the site again, you will see that we now have an entry on the menu with this register page that we can go to, and you see the input controls being shown on the screen. Yeah, so you have to fill in some required fields before you can submit this. You see the familiar date picker that you already know from Windows and other sites and other systems in Outlook, etc. If not everything is filled out, you will get these reminders that you need to fill out some files or some lines, sorry. And once all is that done, you can create then this account. This is just a fictitious example. But yeah, you don't see anything happening. So let's try to add some more finesse to that, for example. So what we're doing now is switching modes for the application, switching the random mode into a global interactive server mode, so we don't have to specify anything per page. We're also adding providers, and providers are basically placeholders where the actual HTML will be rendered to. So it's not always being displayed exactly at the place where you put the component in the Razor file. Sometimes you just have to work with those providers, and then it will be inserted at that specific location. In this case, we're adding the dialog service where we have this show info method, which basically gives you a standard notification dialog where you can have some text being shown. An icon is added automatically. You can add a title, etc. You could also make it a little bit more exciting, and then use not a standard dialog, but use your own dialog, and that's what you're seeing now on the screen. So we have this Fluent dialog component where you can have a header and a footer and a body. Put some components in there. It could, of course, also be other components. They don't necessarily all have to be Fluent components in there. You give it the text that you want to display. You can give it a title, and then at the end, that title will be used to display in the dialog itself. So going back to the register page, we kind of comment out this show info and add now the show dialog method with that account created dialog that we just created. You see there that we have this title, and if we go back to the Razor page for the account dialog, you can see that we are referring to that title parameter as well. So yeah, running that again, you see now once you have created this user, you get this dialog with your own text, with links, with the close button actions, etc.
But we can do better.
Yeah, the dialog is a little bit in your face. It's a little bit bigger. So we could also say, hey, let's do that with a toast. Those smaller messages that you see on the edges of the screen. So we just added the toast service there. That's a component that we have, and we can then just say for the toast service, show a success message, which automatically adjusts the color and the icon being shown. And now you see this familiar message appearing in the top right that the account has been successfully created. What next? Well, in this form, we're missing the country information. So basically, if you register a user, you might want to have to know what country they are from. So we are just adding some code here where we add a list of all the countries. We have some flags that come from our demo site that we use in this country code. and we add that field to the record that we're creating. And then we have some code here that is being used to search through all those countries based on what the user is typing. And finally, in the form, we are adding this Fluent autocomplete component, which basically uses that list that we just specified in that country file and allows us to make a selection from that list. In this case, we said that we're only going to be using maximum amount of one selected item. For somebody's country of origin, that's quite logical. But in a different situation, you could also have maybe 4 or 5 things that you can select with this box. And as you can see, then in the form, we can just type a few letters, and that specific country will be selected. If you try to do more, then you get this message. But yeah, you can search in it, you can point and click and select it, and that is how easy it is to extend this form, with other components and make it more appropriate for the situation that you want to use it for. Now, of course, we spoke about web components, and this is what we're doing now is change that menu on the left-hand side. We have also a Fluent app bar component. And the Fluent app bar is something that you know from Teams already, where you have those big icons on the side. Now we also have that now in the Blazor component library, and you can see that we have now changed it and have these icons here. So it takes up a little bit less space, and again gives a known way of navigating through the site. Now, finally, what we want to do with this demo, because we already alluded to that it's easy with web components to do switching of themes. So let's add in the top bar a little bit of space, and then at the right end, give you an option to go from light mode to dark mode. So we're giving that the button there, and we are including some code, which is part of the library where we say, hey, we want it to be able to switch from theme light to dark. So by default here, you can see that we're setting it to the system mode, so whatever the system is using. But by making a choice here specifically with that button, we can also go change to dark mode. Now, this could also be saved, of course, in local storage, and there's kind of functionality provided that makes it easy to restore that and don't have any annoying flashes when the application starts. So it always starts in the theme mode, in the light or dark mode that you want. With that theme, you can also specify any one of the color options that we have. You can also, of course, have custom colors, but we have the whole set of Office themed colors included, and you can choose those. So you see that we went from blue to green to the PowerPoint red. Mind you that if you go from light mode to dark mode, the color won't always stay the same. That is for this version of the web components that we are using, that change is always made to have certainty that it's an accessible color and that the contrast is good enough. Now on the screen, you can see a small set of components that are part of the library. There's many more. So we'll go to the aka.ms link mentioned on top to go to the demo site and see all of them in action. We have examples, quite a few examples of every one of that component, documentation about parameters, etc. And that is basically what we have right now. So you can see that the kind of different groups of components that we have. Some are made for laying out your application, other are specifically for inputs, and then there's also components that just have a very specific function, like the app bar that we saw, or a tab component.
And we will continue to have the same list, and many other components also for the next version. So I think that's interesting also to have an overview of the V5 version, the next version about the library. So a few weeks ago, we already started the dev-v5 branch in the source code, which contained the fundamentals element for an architecture and even the better code quality. So for that, we are using, and as Vincent already explained, that our Fluent team is currently working on the next version of the web component, which will we, of course, be using of that. So we will give you a similar functionality to other Fluent UI framework as React. Unfortunately, several features and enumeration have had to change the name of the properties, for example. So we won't be without breaking changes when we migrate the code. So we will explain that later. But the main advantage is also for the new Fluent design component is to have the same feature and the same names used by the other libraries also, and to have a similar documentation when we would like to use the components. So you have the list of the previous screen. You have the list of web components. We come back on this list later. About the fundamentals feature included in the next version, the first thing is we would like to keep the same structure. So the folder structure are exactly the same. You have the same folder. You have also the same project in the structure. So for example, you have the components. The first one is the component project, and the second one is the components.scripts project. So of course, the component project, that's the main project used to create the components. So the target of that will be the components.dll, for example, where you will have the list of all Blazor components embedded. And so you have also the script components, the script project, sorry. So the script project, that's a project will be there to compile and to build the whole TypeScript file. So we will not use the JavaScript file attach or link to the Blazor component, but we will use the TypeScript files. So we will have the possibility to manage and to test the code quality in this case using Analyzer, for example. I will explain that later. But the script project will be also there to merge so the whole isolated CSS file, and also to compile the global JavaScript file to a single file. So the target or all of that will be a bundle.css file and also a module.js file. That's the classic name used at this moment for the Blazor project and the Blazor CSS and JavaScript file. We'll use the same name, but the compilation will be made by another type of project. And why we would like to do that, the first thing is to improve the code quality. The quality is already there, but we would like to improve that also using unit tests. I'll explain that on the next slide. And also, we would like there to have a single global CSS without using the deep keyword. For example, to avoid to use this B- keys for all components, and that will be very, very more simple for the end user, the developer, to customize the whole component when they want to apply custom styles or change some of the colors, change some styles about the component for that.
Yeah, and you'll especially see that if you nest more than one Fluent UI component within each other, Fluent UI Blazor components, because then it's not always clear right now which deep you actually need to target, which of this B- identifiers. But yeah, if we don't need to use those anymore, changing that will be much easier.
Yeah, of course, this particularity is included only on the library. Of course, for your development in your project, the deep keyword and the tag will be, of course, used like in a normal project, normal Blazor project, of course. Yeah. So the second part is also about the unit test. So the unit test is already there in the project, but we would like to improve the unit test using the bunit library. Which we use the Blazor files, and majority using the Blazor files. That will be easier when you want to add some tests. You just need to copy the HTML or the Blazor content in the test file, the Blazor test file, and you can validate the HTML result like that. We will also add the global unit test to validate for all components. For example, we will always have an ID attribute or a class or style attribute. So we would like to validate that globally for the whole component in one unit test, one global unit test. And the result will be always use the HTML comparer. So you have a method verifier to validate that. And so if I go to the next slide, for example, you have here the possibility to validate what is the content of the current or the expected value for the HTML result with the result created immediately by the code. And so you can say, okay, that's the test must be adapted, for example, or you need to change something in your code because the test detects some invalid feature. And so you need to change that, for example, there. So that's very easy. You receive a receive file and a verified file. In Visual Studio, you can compare the file, just right click and you select the two files and you can verify that and you can change that. Later, we will add the Playwright library. That's not yet included, but that will be made in some days. And the reason is also why the first thing is also to improve the code quality, to avoid the regressions in the evolution of the code, and also to have a code coverage, a maximum value for the code coverage. You can see the value there, 97% at this moment for the code coverage, so that's very important. And next, Playwright will be there also to validate not only the HTML result, but also to validate the design result, the color of UI component, for example, the position of UI component on the screen. So that will be also interesting to do that. The last part of the fundamental project will be the demo websites and the samples and samples data and APIs. First, we created a demo website using Markdowns and, if possible, exclusively Markdowns files to generate the documentation. But we will have also the possibility to include in this Markdown, to include the live samples, some live samples. So you have a specific tags to do that. So we have the possibility to include some Razor file and to validate the content of the Markdown using the live samples in the documentation. So that will be easier for us to use that because we can manage the Markdown file with more simplicity. We have the possibility to change some text very easy using that. At this moment, that's mainly used by HTML, so that's also possible. That Markdown, I think it's better for the development phases. We have also the possibility in this case to improve the documentation and to simplify for the future, maybe the future integration with Microsoft Learn, for example, where Microsoft Learn already use the Markdown file like that.
Yeah, and it's not just to make our lives easier, but also for potential contributors that it's going to be easier to just make a PR and do a pull request for some changes in documentation where now you have to go hunt in the HTML code, but then it's just going to be simple Markdown.
Yeah. For the documentation, Markdown, I think is at this moment is really a standard also to do that. Yeah. And you will have also two projects, a sample data project and API project. So that two separated projects, so that will be easier for us or for the development or for the community also to validate some part of component or to detect some feature, some invalid feature in the component using samples data already there to include in the demo, and also some APIs when you need to communicate using the virtualization feature, for example. So this gives you an overview of the current version of the Fluent UI Blazor library, the version 4, as well as the adaptation we will making to the next version, the version V5 in this case, and which will be probably available in early 2025 in some week or some months. So thank you for watching, and please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions.
Yeah, let's give them some resources to see where it's all can be found. So AKMS get .NET 9. We are now at .NET Conf. 9 is released, so go download that and install it. If you want to know more about the library, you can go to this aka.ms Blazor Fluent UI link, which will lead you to the demo site and all the examples that we show. For the packages, you can go to the Blazor/Fluent UI/libs. And if you want to learn more about the demo code that we used in this presentation, use the last link to go and find all those source code files.
Thank you. Continue to use the .NET 9, of course. .NET 9 is available today, so you can do that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.